Would having a lion, mischievous monkeys, a volcanic eruption, and thick steam taking over your house be boring? Two complaining children learn a lesson about boredom the hard way in a book titled Jumanji, written and illustrated by Chris Van Allsburg. Jumanji is a Caldecott medal-winning book. The book was written by Van Allsburg in 1981 and received the medal in 1982. This book was deserving of the Caldecott Medal because it teaches children not to complain about being bored, following instructions, finishing what they start, and respecting their parents, because they might get more than they bargained for when they ignore their parents' rules and play a game like none they have ever played before. The story is simply structured and easy to read with many illustrations to help young children understand the words in the story. For these reasons, Jumanji is deserving of the Caldecott Medal. Jumanji is a fantasy book because there are things that happen in the story that could never really happen, such as a lion coming out of a board game and chasing the children playing the game through the house. The lesson the children have to learn is real, but the events that lead to them learning their lesson are impossible. The wild things that happen in the story are important, though, because they help children reading the story learn an important lesson in a way that is interesting to them. The story of Jumanji starts with a brother and sister, Peter and Judy, giggling after their parents leave home for the opera, because they have no intention of keeping the house tidy like their mother asked them to right before leaving the house. Their mother said they would be bringing guests home from after the opera was over. Peter and Judy showed no care for what their mother had said and immediately set to dumping all of the toys out of their toy boxes and making a terrible mess. It was not long, though, that they stopped their mess-making and said they were bored. The two children decided to go play in the park, where they went on to find a board game just sitting under a tree. The words, "A Jungle Adventure," were written on the box. The children found a note attached to the box that warned them to read the instructions carefully before playing, and that it was a free game that was fun for some, but not for all. Peter and Judy ended up taking home the game to play it, even though Peter said somehow someone probably left the game because it is boring. When the brother and sister got home, they sat down to play the game. Judy reads the instructions as Peter plays around with the pieces. Peter thinks it looks like a regular old boring game. The instructions to this game say that if you start the game, you have to finish it. When a player gets to the Golden City, they have to yell out, "Jumanji!" and then they will be the winner. Peter says the game is no big deal, but when he rolls the dice, he lands on the lion square, and a real lion appears in the room and chases Peter through the house. Peter manages to shut the lion into his parents' room and says he doesn't want to play the game anymore. Judy says that they have to, or the game won't end and the lion will stay. The children run back downstairs and continue the game. They end up with a bunch of mischievous monkeys, a stampede, a monsoon, a lost guide, a volcanic eruption, and more horrible things destroying their house. And remember, their mother had asked them to keep the house tidy. When their situation seems its most hopeless, Judy finally lands on the Golden City and yells out, "Jumanji!" Everything suddenly goes back the way it was before they played the game. Peter and Judy quickly begin cleaning up the mess they had made with their toys and returned the game to the spot they found it at the park. Then they went home and fell asleep from exhaustion. Peter and Judy's parents come home some time later and wake them up to put on their pajamas and finish a puzzle they had started. One of their parents' friends mentions how her two children never finish the games they start and never read the instructions. Just then, Peter and Judy see this woman's children running out of the park with a long, skinny box in their arms. What do you think will happen to these two children? If you want to know more about Jumanji, you will have to go and read the book for yourself.